I want to move away from the national team a little bit, but continue on in collective interest. You were recently announced by the Buffalo Bills as one of the owners of the organization. To me, it's refreshing just to see that because you have an extremely successful athlete, one of the homies, a black person, but most importantly, somebody who deserves and has earned the right to be there. But when people get announced as owners, I think if you have never done it before, like me, you have no idea what goes into that process. So can you share with us, how do you become an owner? Like, what do you do? Is it just about having enough money? Is it having the connections? What goes into that process?
And congrats on the win
Yeah.
too. I guess we had to put some respect on your team's
Thank
name
you.
on the divisional round for
Congrats
sure.
on the win as
That's a
well.
Lamar
big
coming
win.
to town.
No, I appreciate that. And so, I think it's a little bit, I mean, at least for me, my experience, when I really stopped playing, I think the biggest thing for me was, what do I want to do? And so for the last 4 years, when I decided, hey, I'm really intrigued in the investment world and being an entrepreneur, I fully leaned into that. I fully leaned into to just learning about the space and, setting up, learning how to set up different LLCs. Obviously, I have a degree in business, so that helped me a lot. And I just leaned into it really fully. It became my day job, setting up calls, meeting people, and not being, I think one of the toughest things is being able to not be afraid to like rewrite myself, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
Taking the soccer hat off and going, I traveled the last 3 years. I can't tell you, the amount of times just, going to first time meetings, going to first time, different events, and just putting my name out there in terms as Jozy, the businessman investor, and not Jozy, the soccer player, and kind of rewriting those wires. It took a while, but it finally started to pay dividends to where people saw me as an investor and entrepreneur. And I can't lie to you. That process is for everybody different, but for me was the most challenging. Right, walking into a room and saying, "Hey, they're not going to know me as Jozy the soccer player. They need to know me as Jozy the businessman." And learning what that should look like and how I should approach those type of conversations and events. So that was the biggest, most important thing, kind of tooling myself, relearning, and getting away from Josie the soccer player, which was really hard to do until today. It's hard to do because it's my whole life. You walk down the street or something, people know you as that. But now I don't like I don't like to be known as that. I want to
Mm.
fully make that switch because that's the next part of my career.
That is such an amazing answer. And Jalil, I was on a call earlier, actually last year, with Jozy and some of his folks on his wonderful team surrounding him. And we're trying to coordinate times. And Jozy gets on. He's like, "Hey, guys, I want to apologize. My wife is at Wimbledon." And I was like, that is the hardest flex I've ever heard anyone say. That's their wife. He was like,
I wasn't trying to flex,
no,
bro.
you were super, Jalil. He was super humble and like, "Hey guys, I'm sorry, but my wife's at Wimbledon, so I'm like, man, what an amazing flex." And I said that, everyone started laughing because we all know how important it is to have great women in our lives. Sloane Stevens, obviously, is an amazing person and career, but I do want to get your insight when you think about this transition from Jozy, the soccer player, to Jozy Altidore, who you are. How important is to have someone like Sloane who understands? I often say what's understood doesn't have to be explained. So much of what you guys are going through is similar. So what is it like having a ride or die or a partner in your life that really, really does truly understand where you're from and where you're going?
Man, let me tell you. So, first of all, it's a beautiful thing. That's
Mm,
my best friend right there. But
mm,
at the same time, it's difficult. It's challenging because, you know, nobody quite understands like what we go through, right? The schedule, the work, the expectation. So that's been the biggest thing is like even our loved ones around us, right? They sometimes don't grasp it. So to be able to have our minutes of calm where we
mm.
kind of, remember what we're doing, why we're doing it, what's important. I can't stress to you enough how amazing that feeling is, and just having that kind of, innate unconditional feeling of knowing, hey, she's going to be there and he's going to be there, I think is important, and so, like, when like you said, Alan, when Wimbledon comes up, or US Open, or whatever it is, I can't make everything, but I try to make sure that, hey, when it's her time and nothing else is more important, and she does the same for me. So that's the biggest challenge, because people around us kind of, you know for and I'm not saying it's done purposely, but right, family, friends, naturally they want the best of you. Everybody wants the best of you. And so, she always tells me, we always talk about, we got to give the best of ourselves to each other first and foremost, and then it trickles on after
Ooh.
that. And so, having someone that just understands that, she's constantly building things, and I'm building things, and we're trying to build things together, leaning on each other, talking about different ideas. I can't tell you enough how important and invaluable that is. So she's been a tremendous part of everything for me, and continues to be. And I try to always be there for her as she's, in the latter stages of her career, looking to do more in the next stage of her career as well.
Man, that's fire. That's fire. I mean, for me,
I'm
one
about to
of
go buy some
the, I
flowers.
guess, thing
Chocolates.
for
Love up
real,
on my
man.
girl. Yeah,
It
you putting it on, Josie. Putting it on everyone.
for real, man. It's dope. But one of the things about just the conversation that we've been having that's really been floating up for me as themes in terms of what you're talking about is focus and drowning out the noise. And that's a very difficult thing to do when there's so many things around us as athletes. There's so many things that we're trying to do in terms of what we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to, when people set boundaries of this is how high Jalil or Josie or Allen could go, we trying to go up all the way up there,
All the
right?
time.
So if you could leave maybe some of the younger athletes that listen to our show and watch our content with one word of advice to help them drown out the noise and stay focused, what would that be?
I say this with trying to be the most sincere possible. And this is what's worked for me. And I'm not perfect, but I can only speak for myself. One thing that I realized that sometimes is tough to realize is, even the people closest to you, may not totally understand what you're going through. They may not want what you want as bad as you want it. And so you have to stay disciplined, and you have to surround yourself around people that are equally as disciplined. And I think that's tough to do, because we have family, sometimes it's our siblings, our parents, right? They're not, for whatever reason at a point in time, right, fully locked in on where you're trying to go. And I think that's the biggest thing. And sometimes it's hard, because you think to yourself, hey, that's my mom or dad. But at the end of the day, like you said, Julia, there are places people try to get to. And when you want to get to places you've never been, you have to do things you've never done. And
Yeah.
sometimes that means putting people, in a certain box for a little bit while you hustle and stay disciplined on where you want to get to. And it's tough. It's really tough. And I've learned that now, that sometimes it's really hard. It's hard conversations. But, I've learned, I appreciate how you feel. I appreciate why you feel that way. But I'm trying to get somewhere, and I can't deviate right now. And, I learned that, and I think that's the biggest lesson. Don't feel bad about it. Don't feel bad about staying disciplined on where you want to get to, when you have others that are, trying to take from that energy. It's okay to recognize that and stay on course. And it's a lonely road. I've learned. I hate to sound cliche, but I tell you right now, when you get locked in on something and you're telling people, hey, I don't have time for that, or I don't want to do that, they may not like that. And they may say, oh, but I thought we were like this. And that's just how it is. It's a lonely road sometimes. So that's my biggest thing, Jaleel: staying disciplined and surrounding yourself around people that are equally as disciplined and focused as you.